Hey there, it's Blair here at Time Trades. This is your instructional video for the new TT square of 9 inner script. And I'm going to start by explaining what the square of 9 is. You're looking at one. This is in an Excel spreadsheet. It's basically an arrangement of numbers starting with 1 in the center and then proceeding in a spiral pattern, um, moving out and around. And this axis here, this is also known as the 0 degree axis. And then the prices along the angle here are at 45 degrees and then 90 for the vertical, and then it proceeds every 45 degrees after that. Okay, so you can think of it as arranged into, like 8 45-degree quadrants. There's some interesting mathematical properties here in the square of 9 I'm not going to get into. You can very quickly and easily move from one ring, let's say number 167, you can go to 223 just using some simple square root math relationships. And you can also find angles from all of these. And that's really where a lot of the books focus on, is what are all the math relationships, and then they leave it up to you to figure out how to put that on your chart. So I thought I'd skip all of the math relationships and go straight to what we all want, which is just putting the square of 9 values on the chart. Okay, so let's remember this spiral pattern, because we're going to come back to it shortly, as we switch over to a chart here and take a look at SPX. There's absolutely nothing on this chart right now. And one of the things that you may have noticed, I know I certainly did, is that coming out of the 2022 low here, the moves that price made started off quite steeply and sharply, and then they flattened out, but they also got a little longer. So if you notice this move here that started in March, I mean, this proceeded into late July 2023. So short and steep, longer and maybe slightly less steep, and then even longer from October 2023 into March 2024. And you can see how the waves are continuing to be quite long and extended here. So this, I think, is one of the things that makes the square of 9 so accurate. And I'll share a bunch of examples here as we work through these. Is how the square of 9 kind of models the way that price tends to move in increasingly longer waves. So let's add it here. The script is called TT square of 9. TT, of course, stands for time trades. And when you select it, you are prompted to set the anchor time and price for the script. Okay, so when we click on the chart, we're setting two values. We're setting the time, we're setting the price. I like to make sure that the magnet is turned on so that the price will snap right to this low. It's always a good idea to set it to major pivots, either pivot highs or pivot lows. And that will give you the best results. So I'm using a pivot low here. It will work, of course, on a pivot high as well. So what we're seeing here is red lines are drawn every 360 degrees around the square. So as price moves, and price at the anchor point is down here at like 3,500, 3,491. So if you can imagine, I don't have 3,491 on the spreadsheet, but if you can imagine it's on here, price is steadily moving up and around. And when it makes a new 360-degree lap around the square of 9, then we draw a new red line. Okay. And that each of these red lines represents a new 360-degree cycle around the square of 9. And those are identified here in the settings as 0-degree prices. If you want to see the price lines that are halfway around the cycle, from halfway around the square of nine from the anchor point, then you can turn on the 180-degree prices and so on for 120 and 240 and 90, as well as 270, but then you get an awful lot of lines. So the way I tend to work with this is I tend to work primarily with the 0-degree prices and the 180-degree prices. You may have a use case for the others. That's why they're there. And yeah, so that is what the red price lines are, and that's how they're calculated. They're calculated as full cycles around the square of nine. But then there's another section here called timelines, and the timelines are showing something similar, right? And we're counting 0-degree times around the square of nine as well. So how are we counting time though? Unlike price, there's a number of different ways that we can count time, and these are called time factors, and these are identified here. We've got calendar days, weeks, degrees of the ascendant, degrees of the moon, degrees of the lunar phase, which is synodic moon, Mercury Helio, Venus Helio. You can see them all here. So there's a number of other synodic pairs as well. Okay, so what this allows you to do is kind of experiment a little bit and find the time factor that fits best. Okay. So we're going to do that right now. We're using sun as the time factor. So what we're doing is from this anchor point, we're counting every degree of movement of the sun. And once that makes one complete lap around the square of nine, then we draw a yellow line. So if you can imagine, we ignore the 2 because that's too low, but if we start counting it at 11, so basically we've made two laps, not counting the first lap, and then we're on the second lap here. The sun has moved 11 degrees since the anchor point, and that's the first line over here. Okay. And then we continue to count degrees of sun since then. And with every lap, we get a new yellow line. All right. So you can see here, there's some pretty good hits. This is pretty close. This is pretty close. This is pretty close. I also like the way the price lines have some very good hits as well, like especially here in December. Here and here in July, and then late August. Okay, some very good hits just using the default settings here. There's no fiddling done. So let's do a little bit of fiddling with the settings to see if we can get some better hits here. So one of the things I like to experiment with is maybe calendar days. Calendar days is very similar to sun. I'll leave them both on. Of course, there's 365 days in the year and 360 degrees of solar movement in a year. So the lines are going to be very close together. So you can see how those look here. Again, very, very close to the result for the yellow sun lines. But let's try maybe synodic moon. I like that one because it incorporates the movement of both the sun and the moon, and we do get a lot more lines. It's probably better assessed on an intraday chart than a daily chart, but we do get some very nice square outs up here where time and price come together. Like in August 2023, that's an excellent square out here. And there's some others as well. So let's keep experimenting a little bit and see if we can find something that works better. So I'm going to turn off both of these. Let's try our Venus Earth Synodic. That's one of my favorite inputs here. And wow, immediately you can see some excellent hits. This one here in March came within 2 days of a major low. This nailed the top here in July 2023. This one nailed the bottom in October 27. This is a near perfect square out in February 24. And well, we also caught this smaller degree top over here in October 2024. So um, uh, basically, I would encourage you to experiment. It's the design of the script makes it very easy to try different settings for your time factors. So I like this one for SPX, but by all means, please do some experiments yourself with it and see if you can come up with some great settings for the symbols that you trade with. So let's do another couple of examples here. I want to show an example of a symbol with a high price and how we need to adjust the price per sell in order to make things fit. So let's take a look at Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin has a very high price at the moment. And we can also take a look at using this square of 9 script to draw Gann fans. So let's start by adding the square of 9. Okay, and we can anchor it down here to this significant low in August. And what you'll see instantly is that there's a lot of red lines. And the reason for that is that we have to rescale it to fit the prices of Bitcoin, which are $50,000 to $100,000 here. Okay. So this is where the price per sell comes in. All right. So what we can do here is we can try 100 as price per sell. And my recommendation basically is to take the price of the security, divide by the price per sell, and the result should have anywhere from 3 to 4 digits in it. Okay. So by taking about 100,000 divided by 100, we get 1,000, and that has 4 digits in it. So we should be good in terms of scaling here. So we can take a look at this and um, see see how this fits. It's very impressive how these prices are lining up here. Okay, really like how these work. Now, one of the things I like to do is draw a Gann fan, but I like these Gann fans to be drawn starting from the anchor, but then connect with one of the square out points. And this is where time and price lines cross. Okay. So if we go up at basically 45 degrees, we can connect these up with a Gann fan. Now, I'm going to start down here at the anchor point. Now, I suppose I could connect it here or here or here, but what I like to do is I like to get the most recent intersection, okay? So the most recent intersection is over here, okay? And the reason for that is that incorporates the expanding spiral nature of the square of 9, right? You can see how the yellow lines are getting further apart. You can see how the red lines are getting further apart. That's because the spiral is expanding. It's expanding outward. Every new ring around the square of 9 is longer than the prior one. That's why these lines are further apart, okay? So we can use these 45-degree intersections and basically count them off as we go up. So this is intersection 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the most recent one. And we're always counting the intersections that occur basically at 45 degrees from the prior one. So this is going up on a diagonal, up on a diagonal, up on a diagonal. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. If you really want to draw your Gann fan like this, certainly you can. But this is just kind of my own personal preference in terms of how I like to do it. And what this is telling me is that maybe we can shrink these the price per sell a little bit. So let's try a price per sell at maybe 50. So we get twice as many lines. Okay. So if we have a price per sell at 50, then this is what we see. And we can see how important these cells are. These red lines were up here for price. And let's re-anchor this Gann fan at the diagonals. Okay, so we've got diagonals here, 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 and here. So this means we lower the 1 by 1 down to there. And now we get some very nice hits on the Gann fans using that smaller price per cell. So let's keep going. Let's give it a try. Let's see if we can get an even better Gann fan by shrinking it from 50 to 25. Okay. So now we need to re-anchor our Gann fan. So we've got diagonals here, 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 here. So let's lower that 1 by 1 down to here. Okay. And yeah, this is really nice. We can see how price is tracking that upper 1 by 2. We can see how we've got price got above the Gann fan, the 1 by 1 held above the Gann fan, and then pushed straight up. So let's try it one more time. Let's try price per sell of 10. Okay. So we've got the diagonal square out levels here, 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 and here. Okay, so like 64. So we can lower that there. Now we're cooking. Okay, so what I like about this is that we've got this touch on the 1 by 1 here, little probe below, holds, and then price gets above the 2 by 1 and holds above the 2 by 1, and then it shoots up into this upper segment here, and you can see how this fan up here has been basically containing price. So what's the right one for you to use? Well, it really boils down to personal preference. I don't have a hard and fast answer, but I want to encourage you to use these tools to find a technique that works for you, right? The point is that these are really quick and easy to use, and they are super powerful. Now, one thing that we do know about Bitcoin, and I want to show you this before we leave Bitcoin, is that Mercury Helio is very important with Bitcoin. So let's give this a shot using Mercury Helio as the time factor instead of the sun and see what it looks like. Okay, so here's Mercury Helio, and we've got intersections moving up here. You can see how Mercury Helio intersections are much more frequent than sun intersections, and that's of course because Mercury moves much faster than the sun. So the most recent square out point is over here at like 81,700. So we can move that up there and see what that looks like, right? And what this is a very good Gann fan, but what's even more compelling is the behavior around the Mercury Helio price lines, right? So this price line here tagged a low on October 10th, tagged another low on November 4th, tagged a low within a day on November 25th. Here's another minor low on December 10th. So these are really compelling, like in terms of just being able to visualize how Mercury's orbit and its degrees of movement increases as we move around the square of 9. And that combined with the eccentric elliptical movement of Mercury is creating some very nice timelines here. And remember, these timelines are not complete orbits of Mercury. Mercury's orbit is 88 days. These timelines are only drawn as Mercury's degree movement um, passes 360 degrees on the square of 9. So if the starting degree was, so we're counting degrees of movement here. So um, as Mercury comes around and moves, say, 28 degrees from the anchor point, we get a line. If it moves, if it hits 53 degrees from the anchor point, we get a line. 86 degrees from the anchor point, we get a line. So that's how these orange lines work. And that's true for everything that's there except for like calendar days and weeks. Okay, so that's another very powerful example. I want to show you one last example before I end this video, and that's for lower priced stocks. Let's go and take a look at IONQ. This is a quantum stock, and it's at about $33. And this shows examples of, let's just get rid of these Gann fans here. This shows examples of using the price per sell, setting the price per sell to a value less than 1. Okay, so we're going to add TT square of 9 again, and we're going to anchor it to this low over here. First, we're going to turn on our magnet, and then we're going to anchor it. There we go. So it snaps to there. Okay, so right now these are the default settings of the square of 9. So we're using a price per sell of 1. All right, and you can see how that is not really doing a great job for these lower price stocks that have prices, under 100, right? If you take the price of the security, divide by the price per sell, you should have a 3 or 4 digit answer. Right now, we only have a 2-digit answer, so that's not good enough. So let's try 0.1. Okay, so we can go to a 3-digit answer here. That's a little better. Wow, look at that retest. That's perfect. That's what you love to see on this stuff. So that's pretty good, but let's keep going. Maybe 0.05 would be better. Yeah, this is pretty good here as well. We're getting some really good retests and confirmation that these levels are working. But what would a Gann fan look like here? If we were to draw a Gann fan here, anchored to the same point, and then we can anchor it to, the latest. We want to use the latest 1-by-1 intersection, which is over here. There we go. That's pretty good. We can see how it pokes up against this upper Gann fan line. It struggled to cross the 1-by-1 initially, but when it did, it really took off and surged all the way up to the 1-by-2. So yeah, that's a pretty good setup right there. We could even go further if we wished and experiment with maybe point 0.01 for instead of 0.05 and see what that looks like. And let's see what the Gann fan looks like after we reset that. So we're going to find our diagonal square out point, and it's much lower. It's down here at like 12. So we're going to move that down to 12 and see what that looks like. And again, this is really good, right? We've got the 1-by-1 here. And we've got the resistance, support, resistance, gets through, goes up, and now it found support at the 1-by-4 up here. So again, this is a great example of kind of like there's no wrong Gann fan, almost like they all kind of work to some degree. But the principles to use are really up to you, are sort of the same, but the end result is totally up to you. Like whatever visualization works better for you, you can tune the price per sell to get the outcome you want, right? If you want more price lines, you can lower the price per sell. If you want fewer price lines, you can increase the price per sell, and that of course changes where the Gann fan 1-by-1 gets anchored to. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope I I hope you've got a very good idea now about how to make the most of this script. This is a very powerful addition to the Time Trades portfolio. I look forward to hearing your feedback on it. Thank you. Bye now.